I moved to 64 Caledonian Road in 1985. I was in my second year at LSE, and I moved in with Rob and Jenny, who was on my course as well, both at LSE. So we could just about walk to LSE, like a kind of half hour walk in the morning. And it was pretty run down when we lived around there in King's Cross. When the Arsenal played, you kind of didn't go on the street too much because all the fans would come walking down the Caledonian Road. This was the Metropolitan Cattle Market. We used to sometimes walk up here. It was kind of very desolate, really. And I think in those days, at least a few of the pubs were still open. They were big pubs at the corners. Yeah, went on lots of marches. Went on marches against student loans because we were all got student grants in those days, which was very lucky, really, looking back on it. We went on South Africa anti-sort of divestment marches, and then we also occupied the student union. Never went down to Wapping, but friends of mine went down to Wapping to do the pickets for the Times when they moved their printing presses down there, but they said it was quite scary. And I had lots of friends in the SWP, the Socialist Workers' Party, and the RCP, the Revolutionary Communist Party, as well. Canals are really nice. We used to walk, so from our house we could walk along to Camden Market. In my first year there, we could still sign on, so we used to have to walk up to Islington to the Barnsbury DSS office where to sign on, and that was quite rough. Just behind us was the Rough Trade record offices, so I used to pass those, Collier Street. And then one day I learned how to touch type when I was 16, and there was a notice saying, someone wanted to type up letters, and I put my name in, and then didn't hear anything. And then about 2 weeks later, Rob said, "Oh yeah, Rough Trade had rung back and said, could you give them a ring," sort of thing. Of course, by the time I went back to them, they'd filled the position, so I never got to work in Rough Trade. So it was all pretty run down. There's lots of graffiti, lots of kind of old buildings where they would plaster sort of posters for concerts and albums and stuff like that. And then at night, we would go around and try and rip off the posters. I got this really amazing poster of Nick Cave's Firstborn is Dead. And Rob really annoyed me because he made it up and put lipstick on it and eyeshadow, and I got really annoyed with him. So we lived next door to Neil and Mantis. They liked to play around, shall we say. And what we didn't realise is that all the houses had a communal attic. So in fact, you could, if you wanted to, if you get into your attic, you could walk all the way along the terrace. So one day, I was just going upstairs, and there on the first floor, in the little landing just near the bedrooms, was this note saying, "You will all die tonight," written in red. And I was like, fucking hell. And I took it downstairs, and I was really worried. And then the doorbell went, and it's like, "Oh, Mantis from next door. Hi, how you all doing?" And it's, "Oh my God, we just had this note. It's really horrible." Anyway, it turned out that Mantis had done it. He had gone into his attic, managed to lift our loft up, drop this note down, and then shut the attic door. This is the door to my flat. It almost looks like exactly the same door. I think it might be exactly the same door. It was a kind of like a restaurant. It wasn't Hawker's, but it was like a restaurant when we were under it. And then to the right was a sort of offie as well. The restaurant staff were quite nice. And there was at one point, there was this very young lad who lived there who comes from India or Bangladesh. And he showed us where he slept. He slept in the cellar with this little kind of sleeping bag and like no mattress. That's some of our posters up that we used to kind of take down. That was a propaganda poster. We had some really good parties. So the best party we had was, now I can't remember, I think it was either Burning Spear or Misty and Roots were playing at UCL. They'd been playing at the UCL Union, and then they came along to one of our parties, and they were had to rescue Navasha being dragged into the bathroom by one of them, and various things like that. And it was a good party. So the first year I arrived in London in 84 was the last year, I think, of the GLC. So they had a big banner. They were in the office opposite, big house opposite Parliament, where they had a big banner, the abolition of the GLC and stuff. So it was quite interesting because King's Cross was quite run down, but there was this little crescent called Keystone Crescent. So one of the courses I did at LSE was about the poverty maps that had been produced in the Victorian period. Keystone Crescent was black, which meant it was the very, very worst type of kind of slum, really. But even in sort of 1985, although West King's Cross was quite run down, Keystone Crescent was beautifully kind of maintained and kind of come up with this little kind of oasis. Now the whole area is a bit more shishi and sort of gentrified as well. Houseman's was still there. We used to pop in there sometimes and buy pamphlets and various books and things. A couple of pubs down. I remember 2 of the pubs. The one we never went into was the Scottish Stores because it was quite scary and it didn't have a ladies. That was quite a scary one. And then the other one that you turned right to had a stripper at lunchtime, so we didn't go there very much. So we went to the one in the middle. Had some really good clubs down there. There was this is the Scala. We used to go to Scala a lot. They used to have these amazing posters for the month, and we'd put them up, and we'd go to lots of kind of triple bills of John Waters films and slightly bizarre films, actually, sometimes, and occasionally clubs and concerts. I think I saw Jimmy Somerville there, and people like that. Went to a fantastic club, which turned out to be the KLF Foundation Club, which was an amazing night. It was really, really good. And there were some warehouses as well, where we just sort of round the corner, which I think are now where the old Guardian, where the new Guardian and Observer buildings are. So Rob went to York to do law school, and I had done some volunteering, I think, at Friends of the Earth. And I was working for Julie Brown, and she, just by chance, she said, oh, we're looking for a new flatmate, and I moved in there. I moved into Camden Road. My style was kind of post-punky, I guess. I liked the indie bands. I used to crimp my hair with lots of hairspray, lots of vintage clothes, which we'd get from Camden or jumble sales. Yep, so lots of Doc Martens. Don't think I wore anything else apart from Doc Martens, and footless tights, an old vintage dress, usually 3 sizes too big.